Hello friends, welcome to Ecoholics YouTube channel. My name is Avinash Agarwal and in this video I'll be discussing with you economics current affairs for 11th October 2024. I have selected two important articles from the Mint newspaper. First article speaks about the agenda for sustainable development. So Niti Aayog is partnering with United Nations Development Program. So we get an opportunity to once again speak about sustainable development a little. We have already spoken about sustainable development in a number of articles earlier as well, right? So this is a good opportunity to have a relook at this topic. And second article is a little technical article. This is a little painful article, but it is a very important article because it is speaking about the kind of reforms that we need to do to our income tax act, because government of India wants to simplify and rationalize the income tax act, as we have already discussed earlier once, right? And the idea over here is that this is a great opportunity to remove a lot of errors and to remove a lot of provisions and to add provisions which make sense now in the 21st century that we are living in, the kind of challenges that we are having, right? So this is the agenda for today's discussion. I would reiterate, if you have any special articles that you want me to discuss, please share those articles in the comment section. I will discuss the same with you. Please do answer writing and please do share your reactions, comments to this video. That would be really helpful on your part, right? So let us start. Let us first discuss the easy article, the Sustainable Development article, and then let's come to the difficult article on the Income Tax Act, right? So like I mentioned, that UNDP will be working very closely with Niti Aayog on the agenda on sustainable development. So you know that the meaning of sustainable development is very important to understand, right? So basically this is that kind of development which is helpful for the present generation, but is also not very harmful for the future generation, right? It is leaving earth in a situation, or the planet in a situation such that the future generations will also be able to meet their requirements, right? So it's just you leave the toilet seat as clean as you got it when you came in, right? This is giving a very bad example early in the morning, right? So the idea over here being that we have to approach development for ourselves in a manner that we do not completely screw up the planet, in very simple terms again, right? Please don't write like this in the paper. Okay, so yeah, so this UN agency, it will collaborate with the Indian government, right? And we need help in scaling up institutional establishments, right? So that we can fast track sustainable development. So what kind of institutional establishments in India they need scaling up, right? So we need organizations focused on sustainable finance. We need organization focused on renewable energy. We need organization which are focusing on bringing into place the mitigation capabilities in our country. We need to scale up establishments which are focusing upon adaptation capabilities within our countries, within our country. So these are the kind of establishments which are probably working in these areas, right, that need scaling up. We can also try to identify institutional establishments looking at each of the sustainable development goals, right? So like for example, if women empowerment is an important issue in sustainable development, then which institutions when it comes to women empowerment need scaling up? So that kind of mapping can also be very helpful. You can apply your own mind. Like for example, we want to eradicate poverty, we want to eradicate hunger, so which kind of organizations need scaling up, right? So essentially two kinds of organizations need scaling up. One is those that are involved in, let's say, strategizing in, let's say, policy making, in doing R&D and understanding what needs to be done, right? So this is the thinking part of it. And second is the execution part of it, the implementation part of it, right? So these organizations also need scaling up because the challenges that we are facing are pretty humongous, right? So this is something that you need to keep in mind. So although this is looking like an innocent statement over here, this is a value statement. It's a loaded statement over here, right? It's a very important part. Scaling up of institutional establishments that can actually help us in achieving our sustainable development goals, right? So UNDP will provide technical support to Niti Aayog, right? So that we can come up with the third voluntary national review. What is voluntary national review? So the idea of sustainable development goal was it was supposed to be a bottom up initiative. It was supposed to be a participatory initiative, right? So nobody is going to come and do an inspection that, acha, what did you achieve in the last 9 years of sustainable development? What did you achieve? No, you have to do your own survey. You have to do your own reporting, right? So that's what Niti Aayog will be doing, and that's what UNDP will be helping. It will be helping providing technical support so that Niti Aayog can do the measurement right. Because UNDP has been helping so many other countries, so they are in a position to help us as well. Okay, so this is again very important. So we will get support in the form of data analysis, facilitating engagement with citizens and civil society organizations, supporting outreach, assisting in follow-ups on the review recommendations. So these are the important areas. So tomorrow when you're writing on sustainable development, even if you are not writing strictly from the perspective of United Nations Development Program, and you're just writing about what can be done better so that we can fast track our progress on the path of sustainable development. Tomorrow if you're writing an answer on these lines, so you can try to mention both these points over here, that we need to scale up our institutional establishments which can help us in achieving our sustainable development goals. We need to identify and map organizations appropriately. आप इसको mention कर सकते हैं. Secondly, you can also mention these points over here, that we need to get our act right when it comes to voluntary national review, because voluntary national review should not be an exercise in self glorification कि मैंने अपनी तारीफ कर दी, वाह वाह अविनाश बहुत बढ़िया, राइट, बहुत बढ़िया जा रहे हो. नो, दैट्स यूजलेस, हेल्पफुल नहीं है, बिल्कुल भी बेकार है वो, राइट. सो डू सम data analysis, have proper engagement, do proper outreach, do proper follow-up. So this can be your recommendations also. So use this content very smartly, right? So you already know what voluntary national review is, so I'm going to skip this part, right? So sustainable development goals is what we have spoken about, right? We committed to participating regularly in the review process also. 1/6, why is it important? Why is this topic important for us? This is important for us because 1/6 of all the humanity is living in our country. Very important for the success of the 2030 agenda, right? If you look at the SDG India index, okay, so we have developed a robust SDG localization model at state and district level, right? So this is very important, because many a times we think that having a macro strategy in place is very important. A lot of countries, almost every country in the world has macro strategies in place. A lot of businesses have macro strategies in place. What is important is the execution, the planning, designing and execution at the micro level, because the challenges are at the micro level, because the battle is at the micro level, and that is what India is trying to do, right? So states are competing with states at the micro level for sustainable development goals, planning, implementation. Districts are competing with districts for the same, right? So this is very good. This is very good. It's desirable. It's required, right? Apart from that, there is $150 million India UN Development Partnership Fund, right? So we are also supporting developing countries. So when it comes to ensuring sustainable development, we have to start thinking we need to start thinking positively about others as well, because you cannot say that you are the third largest economy and blah 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 and then go around asking for money from others कि मेरे को पैसा दे दो, मेरे को पैसा दे दो, मेरे को पैसा दे दो, and then suddenly you start saying that okay, we are the third largest. ठीक है, we need fund, we are a developing country, we need fund for resilience, we need fund for adaptation mitigation, all that is fine, but you also need to give funds yourself. So please remember to make points from both the sides. As a developing country with low per capita income, you need help and support in the form of technical and financial collaboration with others. That is understandable. But as a third largest economy, blah, 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 you also need to open your pockets up a little bit. And that's what India is doing, right? Apart from that, we also get supports for our state governments, right? So that they can set up coordination and acceleration centers. So this is again another very beautiful point over here, right? So already we have coordination and acceleration centers in 10 states, Haryana, Uttarakhand, and so on and so forth. Okay. So please mention this point as well, that tomorrow when we are trying to go for sustainable development goals, we need to ensure that these coordination and acceleration centers are there in all the states and union territories of India. We need to also set up regional coordination and acceleration centers so that northern states can come together and work together, western states can come together and work together, and then of course you need a national coordination acceleration center also, right? If you really want to become crazy, you can have a district level coordination acceleration center ka recommendations also. These are all out of the box recommendations that you can try to make for sustainable development goals achievement, will be very helpful, right? Apart from that, renewables, technology, these are new areas, right? And ठीक है, इसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा कुछ बोल देना, ठीक है? सो if you look at women's labor force participation rate, manufacturing में that's less, we need to do something about that, right? So that's something that we need to do about, ठीक है? So we need to incentivize women labor force participation, not just incentivize, we need to make it possible, we need to make it happen. So for that, जो भी ecosystem के अंदर हमारे को support देना है, जो भी skill development के अंदर हमारे को support देना है, जो भी policy level के ऊपर हमारे को support देना है, we need to do all of those things, right? We know that our GDP growth is service sector driven growth. We know that information technology, financial sectors, etc. have been firing on all the cylinders, right? And we know that the manufacturing sector's growth is lagging behind, right? And the target is to raise the contribution of manufacturing to India's GDP to 25%, right? So we must create around 8 million jobs annually in the non-farm sector so that we can accommodate our growing workforce. And this is our major challenge, right? So this is something that we need to work upon too. So when you speak about sustainable development, you need to have inclusive development, you need to have manufacturing growing better, you need to take care of the female labor force participation rate as well, you need to take care of renewable energy capacity creation as well, right? So these are all, I'm giving around 7 to 8, 8 to 9 recommendations easily have been provided to you over here. Easily 8 to 9 recommendations have been provided to you over here कि sustainable development point of view से क्या क्या steps हमारे को लेने चाहिए. So while this is a newsy article in the sense that it's just telling us कि अच्छा ठीक है, UNDP is partnering with Niti Aayog, congratulations, thank you, right? But while discussing this, while reading this, you have to be able to develop at least 7 to 8 points which you will use in your answers on sustainable development. I hope that this is making eminent sense to all of you guys, right? I hope that this is making a lot of sense to all of you guys. ठीक है? Please give your reactions to this article, to this discussion. It's very important to know whether you are liking and benefiting from this discussion. Now let's make our lives difficult, right? And let's speak about the Income Tax Act and the kind of reforms that this act should see. Again, it's a very technical article. It actually requires deep subject matter experts, right, to be able to completely explain what is required, what's happening in terms of what is actually required. So until you get that, you have me. Congratulations. So the committee, right, which was set up, so who is Mr. VK Gupta? He's the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, right? And this committee is reviewing the Income Tax Act. This act was passed in 1961 originally, and since then quite a bit of amendments have been done in this act. This act needs an overhaul. एंड द ऑथर इज सेइंग कि भैया जो करना है एक बार में ठीक से कर लो, बार बार में चेंज मत करो, बिकॉज बार बार में चेंजेस बिकम डिफिकल्ट टू जस्टिफाई, डिफिकल्ट टू इम्प्लीमेंट, डिफिकल्ट टू प्लान, right? So the need of the hour is to simplify and rationalize the act, right? So that's true, but the committee has been told that you don't need to touch the core of the act, you just need to first simplify and rationalize the act. So this is the low hanging fruit, right? ये easy काम है, ठीक है, मतलब relatively speaking easy काम है. What is the high hanging fruit? High hanging fruit is to go into the core of the act and overhaul it completely. So while the committee is right now executing the low hanging fruit, author wants to talk more about the high hanging fruits also, right? Because author is saying कि ये opportunity आई है इसको amend करने की, don't lose the opportunity, right? When we amend the Income Tax Act, right, so what should be our guiding principle? कानून बनाना है ठीक है, लेकिन कानून क्यों बनाना है, that is very important. Getting that why, आंसरिंग दैट वाई इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ठीक है, अगर आप आज के इकोनॉमिक सिनारियो को देखेंगे, राइट, सो देर इज अ न्यू कॉर्पोरेट लैंडस्केप, there is digital commerce which is picking up like crazy, there is international commerce which is picking up like crazy, right? Corporate growth is being encouraged, right? So this is a changed scenario, right? There is advent of artificial intelligence, there is advent of various technologies, right? There is advent of new ways of doing business. ठीक है, so ये situation है. Number 2, right, is that government of India has today accepted that light taxation is good. What is light taxation? देयर वाज अ टाइम इन 1970s जब इंडिया 97% मार्जिनल टैक्स रेट चार्ज करा करता था, यानी कि यू कैन जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड कि वेरी 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 और दो चार वेरी अपने साइड से और ऐड कर दो, राइट, वेरी वेरी हाई लेवल्स ऑफ टैक्सेशन इंडिया रखता था 1970s के अंदर इन टर्म्स ऑफ टैक्स रेट। सो ऑब्वियसली बात है कि अगर आप मेरे से जो है मेरी इनकम का 70-80% जो है टैक्स ही ले लोगे तो मैं आपसे टैक्स छुपाऊंगा, बिकॉज आई डोंट वांट टू गिव यू 70-80% टैक्स इफ आई एम रिच, राइट, आर यू एम आई क्रेजी, right? So I'll stop revealing my income, I will start hiding income, and that led to the creation of black money, etc in India in a very big way, ठीक है? So government of India realized that having a high tax rate doesn't necessarily mean that you will have a high tax revenue, right? There is no correlation. In fact, if you rationalize the tax rate, then people have incentives to pay up, because then the incentive to steal is less, right? मतलब अगर मैं आपसे 15-20% ही टैक्स मांग रहा हूं तो आप सोचो कि हाँ यार 15-20% चलो दे देते, एटलीस्ट इनकम टैक्स वाले रात को नींद नहीं हराम करेंगे, ठीक है? सो दैट्स द आइडिया। सो इंडिया हैज एक्सेप्टेड दिस प्रिंसिपल ऑफ लाइट टैक्सेशन बीइंग गुड फॉर बिजनेस, लाइट टैक्सेशन बीइंग गुड फॉर द कंट्री, राइट, एंड दैट इज रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द फैक्ट दैट जो आपकी कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स रेट है दैट हैज कम डाउन टू 25%, ठीक है, दैट हैज कम डाउन टू 25%. Tax compliance has improved by the corporates, right? And when tax compliance has improved, corporate governance has improved, so you see higher capital market valuations, right? अगर आज कोई कंपनी है, right, और वो कंपनी के डायरेक्टर्स, ऑफिसर्स, टॉप मैनेजमेंट मान लो कि इनकम टैक्स की चपेट में आ जाते हैं या फिर टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट की चपेट में आ जाते हैं, ठीक है, सो नेचुरली पीपल आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी वेरी हैप्पी. वाई? बिकॉज यार आप लोग अगर ये सब चीजों के अंदर चोरी चकारी करने के अंदर धंधा कर रहे हो, राइट, सो यू आर नॉट फोकसिंग ऑन बिजनेस, राइट, so people are not going to be happy. Your stock market prices will collapse like anything. Your collaborators will not work with you, they will not support you, your vendors will not support you, your buyers will start doubting you, especially if those buyers are big buyers, institutional buyers and MNC buyers, right? So everybody understands the importance of tax compliance. Of course there are errant taxpayers in India still, they have not gone away. आज भी लोगों को चोरी करने में मजा आता है, but the proportion of errant taxpayers is coming down. People do understand that if tax compliance is easy, if I can quickly pay my taxes, then people do want to pay taxes. They don't want to be on the wrong side of the law unnecessarily, provided that they can be on the right side of the law easily, right? So the author is suggesting over here that therefore, you know, we want to enhance tax collection, sure, but don't put into place harsh measures, right? Don't put into place harsh measures, because that will dissuade rather than incentivize. That's what we need to understand. Apart from this, there are several technical areas of taxation that we need to review and reform. So what are those broad areas? Provisions related to mergers and acquisitions need to be reviewed and reformed, right? Secondly, dispute resolution mechanism needs to be reviewed and reformed. Thirdly, taxation of salaried individual, especially the standard deduction part of it, the ESOPs part of it needs to be reviewed and reformed. Fourthly, the tax deducted at source part of it needs to be reviewed and reformed. These are the four broad areas or the four pillars as per this author that the committee needs to look at, right? Now, very, very lightly, very, very superficially, I'm going to discuss some of these areas. अब जैसे for example mergers and acquisitions are required. Companies acquire other companies so that they can scale, so that they can diversify. Companies merge other companies with themselves for a variety of different reasons. There is internal restructuring. You may carve out your operations from one organization into, let's say, two organizations or whatever, right? Why do you do this? You do this for bringing efficiency within your business activity. You do this so that your cost of production can go down. You do this so that your distribution cost can go down. You do this so that your recoveries can go up. You do this so that your, you know, sales model efficiency can improve, right? So variety of reasons are there to bring in this kind of restructuring, mergers, acquisitions, etc, right? Now mergers आप जब करते हो तो लॉस हो सकता है, but right now that is something which only manufacturing companies can report. So provision of setting off losses. What is the meaning of setting off losses, right? कि देखिए जो भी कंपनी की जो इनकम होती है, जो भी कंपनी की जो प्रॉफिट होती है, उसके ऊपर से लेट से आप जो है टैक्स कलेक्ट करते हो, राइट, बट देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज सेटिंग ऑफ लॉसेस, कि अगर मेरे को प्रीवियस ईयर के अंदर लॉस हुआ है तो आई कैन एडजस्ट दैट लेट्स से इन दिस ईयर, या फिर आगे आने वाले प्रॉफिट के अंदर मैं ये लॉस को एडजस्ट कर सकता हूँ. सो अगर मैंने कोई मर्जर एंड एक्विजिशन या कुछ इस प्रकार का करा है और मेरे को लॉस हुआ है उसके चलते, तो उस लॉस को सेट ऑफ करने की जो इजाजत है, जो परमिशन है, दैट इज अवेलेबल ओनली विद मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनीज, राइट. वी नीड टू एक्सटेंड द सेम टू एनबीएफसीज, वी नीड टू एक्सटेंड द सेम टू सर्विसेज कंपनीज, इज व्हाट द ऑथर इज सेइंग, right. This is a very important part, just keep this in mind. Another aspect is dispute resolution, right. Prevention is better than cure, right. We need to have alternate dispute resolving mechanisms properly into place, ठीक है. Now there was something called as an advance ruling body, ठीक है. There are cross border payments that happen, right. So let us say that MNC is operating in India, उस MNC का जो है दूसरा भाई कोई और कंट्री के अंदर बैठा है, right. Now this MNC wants to transfer profit from India, let us say to Ireland or to Cayman Island, etc etc. Why? Because वहां पर टैक्स रेट कम है. तो ये एमएनसी जो इंडिया में ऑपरेट कर रही है वो क्या करती है, दिखाती है कि प्रॉफिट यहां पर बन रहा है जबकि प्रॉफिट इंडिया में बन रहा है. तो वो कैसे भी कुछ भी करके प्रॉफिट्स बाहर भेजना चाहती है, बाहर बुक करना चाहती है. बिकॉज इफ दे स्टार्ट बुकिंग प्रॉफिट्स इन इंडिया देन दे विल हैव टू पे हेवी टैक्सेस, ठीक है. सो ये सारी चीजों को ठीक करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया क्रिएटेड दिस एडवांस रूलिंग बॉडी कि लेट्स से दैट you are billing finished goods from India, right, to let us say your subsidiary based in Ireland. यानी कि इंडिया में गुड्स बनाया और वो गुड्स आयरलैंड के अंदर अपनी सब्सिडरी को बेच दिया और फिर वो आयरलैंड की सब्सिडरी से दुनिया भर में बेच दिया, राइट. सो इफ यू आर सेलिंग समथिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया टू अनदर सब्सिडरी अब्रॉड, देन एट व्हाट प्राइस विल यू बी एबल टू सेल, at what price will you be able to do this transaction, that this is called transfer pricing, right. So ये transfer pricing का जो है एडवांस रूलिंग दे देते थे टैक्स अथॉरिटीज ताकि बाद में फिर देयर इज नो डिस्प्यूट, राइट. सो वी कैन हैव दिस एडवांस रूलिंग बॉडी मैकेनिज्म, right. So this system was put into place, it was working earlier but now it is not working well, but this kind of a system is helpful. The important point is that we need to have a framework so that we can avoid disputes, and if disputes do arise then we can finish them off quickly. Standard deduction of 50,000 is available, which is very less for people who are earning crazy amount of money. So for them we need to have a higher standard deduction. We need to have standard deduction which is probably linked to their salaries. Apart from that, taxation of ESOPs need to be reworked, right. So मेरे को तो ESOPs मिले नहीं है अभी तक unfortunately, but the idea over here is that if ESOPs लेते दौरान ही या ESOPs allot होते दौरान ही taxation trigger हो जाता है, it's useless because मेरे को कुछ पैसा नहीं मिला है. Taxation should get triggered when I am selling off. When I am selling off, that time taxation should be triggered. So that is when the money is hitting my hand. So the idea is very simple कि जब पैसा मेरे हाथ में आने वाला है तब taxation should be triggered. That's simple and understandable. And similarly tax deducted at source, like for example मैं जो काम करता हूँ तो मेरी सैलरी आती है तो उसमें से टैक्स डिडक्ट होकर आता है. तो जो मेरा एम्प्लॉयर है वो मेरी सैलरी के अंदर से एक अप्रोप्रिएट अमाउंट ऑफ टैक्स डिडक्ट करके गवर्नमेंट को सबमिट कर रहा है, तो वो इनकम टैक्स अथॉरिटीज का ही काम कर रहा है, right. So when they are working for the income tax authorities, so we need to make their lives easy and not difficult, right. So that's what this author is saying, that there are several substantive issues of taxation which need to be addressed, some of which I have identified for you, right. So we have been discussing this particular topic for the last 2-3 days. I hope you are appreciating the discussion and understanding what needs to be done, right. So these were my 2 articles done for you guys. If there is anything special request that you have, please feel free to share. I will be most happy to address. I look forward to receiving your comments and reactions on this video. We'll see each other again tomorrow. Until then, thank you so much. All the best and Jai Hind to all of you. Bye bye.